Like a lot of people, one of my biggest dreams is to just be able to play Stardew Valley all the time and to call it productive. So I got the idea to paint my way to the Master Angler achievement. So I jumped in a new game, waited till the second day, got my fishing rod from Willie, and got that first catch, which was a sunfish. Now, don't ask me how I caught a river fish in the ocean. Actually, it's because if you catch something that's not one of the pre-decided first catch fishes, it just becomes a sunfish no matter where you are. So I caught something weird, but it ended up being a sunfish for me. And there are so many types of sunfish. Actually, the only fish I've ever caught in a bluegill was a type of sunfish, but I decided to go with the red breast sunfish. It just had the colors that looked like the colors of the in-game sprite, and but it also had all of these other fun colors in it that made me really want to paint it, and it ended up really pretty. I love that teal peeking through with that really bright red stomach. And I thought it was just a really good fish to start off with. And that is our first fish painted. And then we move on to the sardine, one of the trio of tiny silver guys. I ended up going with the Pacific sardine just because I needed a specific species of sardine, and that one kept coming up. So that's the one I went with. But it had this really pretty dark back compared to its light stomach. And then we get the first of our everyone's favorite, the seaweed. And for this one, I just found a pile of seaweed that I liked. I found the species afterwards, actually. It's not as green and grass like as the in game one, but I liked it better and I had more fun painting it. So this is the one we went with for seaweed. And we catch it many times. But next, we've got our anchovy, the second in the trio of tiny silver guys. And this one I painted in bed kind of late at night, which is why the light kind of changes. And it ended up a little rougher than some of my other paintings, but I think it's still really pretty. It's got some good colors. I also did the smallmouth bass in bed that night, and don't come for me. I meant to fit it all on the first page, and I just don't plant my sizing really well. So it swims on to the second page. And you'll see as this goes on, it's not the only one to do that. So it works in the end. But the smallmouth bass is basically, from what my research, very similar to the largemouth bass. Its mouth just does not extend past its eyes. So I made sure to get that detail really, really right on this one and make the largemouth one have a longer mouth. And then we've got green algae, which, boy, I did not expect to be the hardest thing to do. But I did so much research, and basically, algae is like so many things. There's so many things that are considered algae. So eventually, I just found something that looked like the in-game sprite. I don't actually have an exact species on it because I couldn't find a good reference for the green algae. But I think it ended up really pretty once I finally decided to do something. And luckily, even though we catch it several times, I only have to paint it once. But we will come back to the algae conversation with the white algae. But basically, like even seaweed is considered algae. So technically, you catch so many algae in this game, and a lot of green algae is very like it just combines with the water, and I didn't know how to paint that. So I had a really hard time finding a reference for this, but I did it. And this one I did a little bit more of a like real time painting instead of the hyperlapse like a lot of the fish end up being. But that is that for algae. And then we have day 3, and we leveled up in fishing overnight. Our first catch is the shad, and this one's just kind of a fish. Like, its sprite has a lot more character than the actual one does, but I liked its little face. It had like a pouty lip, like a lot of fish do. But I found one that looked kind of similar, but it ended up being a lot more colorful in my painting. But that's just something that happens with my art. It usually ends up more colorful than in real life or in the reference. I just like to use color. And then we move on to the chub, which, let me tell you, typing chub into Google image search had me scared. But luckily it came up as the fish, and I thought this one looked so much like the sprite. It ended up being the Utah chub, and it just looked so much like the sprite. Don't talk to me about scale, because yes, in real life the chub is smaller than the shad, but I just, like I said with the smallmouth bass, I don't know how to plan my sizing. I just start painting, and however big it ends up being is how big it ends up being. Uh, this one was not as colorful as some of the fish, but I still kind of popped those bright colors in the lights. Like I've got a little bit of light blue and some pink down there. And I think it worked really great. On to the next day, we level up again because I'm fishing all the time. We've got the bullhead, which is actually just a type of catfish. So there were a lot of things I learned while researching the fish for this video. And the bullhead is just a type of catfish. So you catch 2 catfish in this game, maybe more. This one ended up being a little bit more stylized because if you look at the eye right now, it's not finished, but it looks very cartoony. And I thought he looked so cute like that that I just kind of attached onto that cartoony stylized guy. And it ended up being a little bit more stylized, even though I do go in and finish the eye a little bit more. But yeah, I don't mind it being a little bit more stylized. Next, we have our largemouth bass, which, like I said, with the smallmouth bass, very similar, just the mouth is obviously larger. um, I wanted to find a very green reference because the sprite is such a green fish, and I think I found a really great one. Big and green, all those colorful light rays on his back ended up being really fun to paint. I hate painting on the like crease of the page, but I love how it looks as a whole spread when it's finished. So I fought with this one quite a bit to try and get the detail to cover, like, move across the break in the page. But it ended up being cute in the end. He works really well with the page as a whole, and I did mess up his name, which I haven't been showing me filming the names, but you can see in the top corner I've been writing the common name and the Latin name, and I messed his up, but I fixed it. And next we have our carp, which just has the cutest little pouty mouth, like Pouty mouth, and I wanted to make sure to include that. And he's got little whiskers that makes it look kind of like a catfish again. When you search carp, you get a lot of koi, which I didn't do the research into if they're the same thing, but you also get a lot of things that look like Magikarp and like giant goldfishes. And I wanted to choose one that was very yellow, a little bit slender, kind of like my goal for everything was to make it look like the sprite. And then we have our herring, the last of the little silver trio. And again, I just started with a very colorful base and added the darks on top of it to make it look very shiny. The highlights in this one, I could have popped a little bit more. He doesn't look so shiny when it's all said and done, but he still looks good. And then we have our halibut, which looks nothing like the sprite, but I could not find one that looked that shape. Halibut are those one-sided fish. They have both eyes on the same side. The Pacific halibut I ended up doing is actually a right side one because a lot of them actually are on the right side. But I tried to give it that like deep dark look like in the game. And he's got his creepy little eyeballs that I add in at the end. And Just makes him look so silly. But I really wanted to make it clear that his eyes were on the same side. Then we have another level up overnight, and we move into the Bream, which is another one, in my opinion, that does not look like the sprite at all. I did my best, but they are a very tall fish. Like, it looks like if you took a regular fish and then just stretched the back and the stomach up, but everything else stays the same. But we move on to another day and another level up, and now we have our catfish, which, to be honest, I am so surprised I caught this early in the game because I always struggle with the catfish. And every other catfish I found until like the end of the month, I was struggling to catch. So I don't know how I got lucky and caught this one, but that luck ended when I went to paint it because it was the first one after all of these fish that I messed up on the sizing for. I wasn't feeling very well, and to be honest, I probably shouldn't have been painting because that's when you invite mistakes. But I just got the whole sizing for his body and his face wrong. So all of this work you're seeing right now, I actually go back and change right here. That's why it gets all like blended and fuzzy because I just I squeezed him into a space that he did not fit, and so there wasn't enough room for his face, but I made it work in the end. And we move on to the eel next, which was so fun and so easy. I the hardest part was finding an eel that was the right color, I guess. Like, it's a very yellow eel in game, so I wanted one that was long and skinny but still very yellow, and I ended up on the long, thin snake eel, and it was just so quick to paint, and I loved it. I really needed that after the catfish. And now we have our white algae, which again was a nightmare, and I just painted something. So we move on to the ghost fish, and the ghost fish required a lot of research because there are a few fish that like are called ghost fish, but none of them look right. So I moved on to looking into like cave dwelling blind fish, and I found the northern cave fish, which again I had to settle for. Like, it did not look exactly like the in-game sprite, but it was white and it was blind, and I think it worked in the end. And then we had our stonefish, which are incredibly venomous and a little bit ugly, but also a little bit cute because they're just down there like, I'm just a rock, don't step on me. But it was so fun to paint, especially as a landscape painter. Like, I paint rocks all the time. So I had a good time with that. And then we move on to the flounder. It shouldn't have taken me this long to catch the flounder, but it did. It also shouldn't have taken me this long to realize the video was out of focus, but it did. When I start to put in the details, it'll be in focus again. I'm sorry. But this is just kind of like base colors, and it looks the same in focus or out of focus. I was looking for a flounder that was yellow and blue because I was looking at the sprite and I went, okay, it's yellow and blue. And I scrolled down through the photos and went, hey, that one's yellow and blue. So I did the peacock flounder. And these spots really are what sold it looking good. Because before that, it was just kind of like a blurry, jumbled mess. And it also helped that I went in and added a few more darker details when I did the spots. But this is our flounder. Looks kind of like the sprite. I don't think the sprite really captures the flatness and the one-sided of it. But next we move on to 1, 2, 3 level ups because we spent the most of the month just catching fish, nothing new. And then I remembered that the goby exists. Unfortunately, it was too late to get the pot of gold and the leprechaun hat, but I went and caught myself a goby. I tried to get to level 10 fishing in time to get the legend. It didn't happen, but there will be a kind of like extra year 2 video. I also tried to catch the ice pip. I hooked him a couple of times. Did not have any success really come in. I just was not at that level yet. I didn't have the iridium mod. And on the second to last day, I also remembered that crab pots exist. So I put some bait in a crab pot on my farm, and I pulled in a crayfish on the last day of spring. So that is our little crayfish, crawfish guy. The first one of the crab pot to be painted because I forgot they existed, but also the last one of spring to be painted. This one I probably could have chosen a better reference for because the in-game one is so grayish blue. I just really liked this brown one, so I did a grayish blue underpainting, so hopefully that would kind of bleed through, I guess, a little, but I ended up still making him very brown, but he's very cute, and I could have done a completely blue crawfish. I liked this guy, so I did this guy. And that is our last fish of the spring. Here is a close-up look at all of them so you can see them a little bit better. Enjoy all those details that we sped through. Enjoy all those colors. I had a really fun time doing this video, not only because it gave me an excuse to play Stardew Valley, but fish are such a great exercise in shape and color and movement and texture, and I've been really into painting them lately. But that brings us to the end of spring. We will continue on painting the fish that we catch in summer, fall, winter, and then, like I said, we'll do kind of like a bonus year 2 Ginger Island, any of the fish that I missed video. I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed it. Please come back to see the other seasons. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them down below. And I'll see you in the next video.